Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're going to give it a couple of minutes so everybody has an opportunity to hop on. We'll get started here in just another minute.
Yep.
Listening to Dawn's webinar. I don't.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to Growing Your Career in Cannabis webinar. My name is Sandy Lee and I am the Southwest Regional Controller for Trulieve. Harvest House of Cannabis, which is now part of Trulieve, and the Trulieve Cannabis Corp are delighted to sponsor this event with Dress for Success Phoenix in tribute of Women's Equality Day. It is my privilege to present our moderator for this event, Heidi Hamer. Heidi is the Director of Operations at Dress for Success Phoenix. She also serves as the Fundraising Director on the Board of Voices of the Desert, which is a nonprofit chorus here in the Valley. Prior to joining Dress for Success just over a year ago, Heidi was a business owner and spent 22 years in the corporate world. Most recently with Coca-Cola, both in operations and in business services. I will now turn the time over to Heidi to start our event.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session in celebration of Women's Equality Day. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us to learn more about growing your career in cannabis. And I want to put a special thanks out to our partners from Trulieve, formerly Harvest, for joining us today. But before we get started, I want to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and available to you to view again after the event. And we want this to be an interactive session. We love hearing from our listeners. So we strongly encourage you to post any questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to monitor your comments and to address them at the end of the webinar. So just to familiarize yourself with where the chat button is, I have a real quick question for all of you out there listening to our webinar today. Would you rather have your superpower be the ability to fly or the ability to read minds? So if you want to go ahead and put your answer in the chat, we'd appreciate it. All right. So for any of you joining today that may not be familiar with Dress for Success Phoenix, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we positively impact our community. It is our mission to empower women to achieve economic independence by providing a network of support, professional attire, and the development tools needed to help women to thrive in work and in life. We provide each of our clients with professional attire to secure employment. However, we are much more than simply a new outfit. In addition to equipping our clients with apparel and accessories, our extensive job readiness and career training furnish her with the confidence that she will carry forever and the knowledge that she can actively define her life, the direction she takes, and what success means to her. Earlier this year, we served our 19,000th client, and we're well on our way to 20,000. And it is really through our committed partners like Trulieve and their support of our mission that we are able to extend our reach and expand our programs. If you'd like additional information regarding our services, you can visit our website at phoenix.dressforsuccess.org, or you can give us a call at 602-489-7397. And that information will be available at the end of the webinar for you as well. But I know that you've all joined to celebrate Women's Equality Day and to get some fantastic practical advice and tips from our very distinguished panel from Trulieve regarding growing your career in cannabis. So let's get started by having our panelists introduce themselves and what their role is at Trulieve and how they got there. So if we could, let's begin with you, Nicole.
Sure. Thank you everyone for attending today, and happy International Women's Day. I wanted to introduce myself, Nicole Stanton. I am the general counsel of the company. I was with Harvest prior to joining Trulieve last fall when we were acquired. I've been general counsel for about 3.5 years. And prior to that, I was at a national law firm for about 20 years. 5 of which I was the managing partner of the law firm's Phoenix office, where I oversaw 125 lawyers and about 75 support staff. At the time I was named managing partner in 2013, I was the first female managing partner of a large national law firm in the city of Phoenix. And that was in 2013, if that tells you anything. So hopefully I've paved the way. Since that time, there have been additional women named as managing partners here in Phoenix of large law firms. So hopefully I didn't mess it up too bad. And it was a huge honor. It's a huge honor to be here talking about this issue today. Thank you, Heidi, for everything Dress for Success does.
Gosh, thank you, Nicole, for being a trailblazer, first of all. And we really appreciate you being on this panel. So thank you. Okay, Lauren, please introduce yourself to our guests.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauren Niehaus, the Executive Director of Government Relations for Trulieve. I just received an email this morning that I've been here for 3 years. So I also came from the Harvest side of the world. I'm physically located in Denver, Colorado. But I get out to Phoenix to visit my Phoenix family often. In my role as Executive Director of Government Relations, I work on all things in the politics, policy, and regulatory space to ensure that the objectives of our company are carried out throughout the legislative process. So looking forward to this discussion today. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren, for being here. Okay, Star, please introduce yourself to everyone on the webinar.
Hello, my name is Estrella Resendez. I go by Star. It's just translated from English to Spanish. I am the National Director of Talent Acquisition for the HR department. In my role, I've been with Trulieve, started with Harvest about 1.5 years ago and transitioned into Trulieve. During my time with Trulieve, I've moved into a manager role to a director role, and now over all of talent acquisition for HR. My team consists of almost 50 staff with recruiters, coordinators, and onboarding team. We manage all of the hiring for Trulieve nationally on every level right now. So it's a big task, but definitely something I enjoy doing.
Wow, great. Well, thank you so much for that. All right, and last but certainly not least, Debbie, please share with us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And again, I'm so honored to be on this panel with you women. I'm a native Washingtonian. I just moved out to Arizona 4 years ago, but from Washington, I had my work experience in restaurant hospitality and management for 14, 15 years. And then my husband and I moved to Playa del Carmen, Mexico. We put all of our stuff in storage and we started a sorbet business and had a really great organic vegan sorbet business going. And unfortunately, his family got sick and we came out to Arizona and transplanted out here and have been assistants to his family. And while that happened, I was able to professionally get into cannabis. Cannabis has been a passion of mine my whole life, and I'm so honored that I was able to get into the industry. And then when Harvest, I've been with the company for almost 2 years in October. So I was with Harvest and then Trulieve came in, and it was such an honor to see that we're being guided by a woman, and having that support and in front of us is just means the world to me.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
And Heidi, just want to interrupt for a minute. I apologize. It appears that our question and answering box is open, but the chat isn't currently for attendees. So if Tyler can work on that, but if in the meantime you guys have any questions and answers, any questions, excuse me, you can put in the Q&A box, which is the bottom of your screen. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sandy, for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Okay, so, all right. Well, now that we know a little bit about each of our panelists, let's just get to the heart of our discussion. And Nicole, I'd like to begin with you. And simply ask, what does Women's Equality Day mean to you?
So for me, Women's Equality Day is really all about having equal opportunities in political, economics, education, and in health spaces throughout the world and throughout the country. I mean, women's equality is not unique to the United States of America. There are women's equality issues throughout the world. And I think for me, it is having our allies work against unconscious bias in all of those spaces. It's receiving the same leadership opportunities as our male counterparts. It's having your spouse, your partner, your cohabitation partner take their fair share of childcare and household responsibilities and caretaking responsibilities for elderly parents. And then really just generally being celebrated for the skills, the unique skills that we bring to the table as women, because Heidi, as you know, better decisions are made when you have diverse ideas at the table. And so I think it's really being celebrated for that. It's not doing us a favor to allow for equality and equal opportunities. It's really a benefit to the spaces that we can bring our voices to the table.
Yeah, I agree 1000% with what you said. And I would like to come back a little bit later and chat a little more about unconscious bias. It's such an important topic and one we could really, talk about for weeks. But I would like to touch on it a little bit for our guests here in just a little bit. Lauren, can you tell us what Women's Equality Day means to you? Or, okay. No, hang on, are we having some technical difficulty here? Lauren, are you still on?
Okay, my mute button went away and disappeared.
Oh.
And so now I'm back and I'm here. It just like 2 years into using Zoom, we still have trouble. So my apologies.
That's okay, no worries.
Yeah, so I think for me, women's equality, I think we can all agree there are still some disparities in society for women, particularly women in marginalized communities. But with this, I think it's important that we reflect on where we've come from, what women prior to us have done to advance women's equality, so that we can use our voices now and going forward in the future in the community and in politics to continue to this work for generations to come. As a female who runs in political circles, which is an industry that is very much male dominated still, my chosen career path offers me the opportunity to reflect on and continuously be reminded that there was a time when women didn't have the right to vote and make their voice heard at the ballot. And I think that that's, sometimes we forget that, you know, it's just one vote. Does it matter? And the reality is that it does matter, because every vote adds, for any issue, whatever that issue may be, adds to the grand total. And so I really think of it in the political and voting realm of how much our voices can make an impact. We've seen that a lot in years past, and I'm hopeful that women of generations to come will continue to use their vote or use their voice when they vote each year during an election.
Agreed. There's still so much more that we have to work toward, just to where equality it isn't a, you know, isn't even in our language anymore, right? We have so far to go until gender parity is no longer a thing. And I think also, to your point, honoring those, you know, women for generations that fought for that right to vote, the suffragettes, and you know, so many women who came before us so that we can go to the ballot box and have our voices heard for the issues that are important to us. Great comments. Thank you. Okay, Star, please tell us what Women's Equality Day means to you.
So for me, I think as a minority group, right, Latinas have obviously been always stereotyped as less than their counterparts as males, right? And I think that with our right to vote and making our voices heard, especially in this type of industry, has really been huge for us to be successful in what we do, right? And emphasize the, you know, our work that we've done in democracy and being part of that. And there's so many disparities in every single virtue that you look at in looking at, you know, even speaking with Nicole Stanton not too long ago, you know, we look at women's basketball, right? We're looking at Brittany Garner, everything that happened to her, that itself, you know, if it was a male counterpart, if we would have had somebody from the NBA, would it be still the same, right? We look at it across the board in sports, in life, in voting rights, in every aspect. You're always looking to make that equality known.
Yeah, and when you look at equality too, when you start to break it down, you know, and you look at, say, let's just say pay, for example, right? So there is a discrepancy between what men make and what women make overall. But then when you start to break it down to, you know, Hispanic, Latinos, and African Americans, then those gaps become much larger. And you know, I think I read a statistic recently that we're, you know, 100+ years away from equal pay, and, you know, at the rate that we're going. So, you know, those votes matter, and those legislative folks matter in getting that to get that wrong righted. So thank you for your perspective and for your comment. Okay, Debbie, what does Women's Equality Day mean to you?
Women's Equality Day means to me that with equality, we need to embrace and recognize diversity. Equality should not only means opportunities, but it should be given to everyone. It means that the chance to develop the potential for everyone, like to give that chance. And I feel like a lot of groups, a lot of women are getting those rights taken away now. There's things that we just need to continue fighting for. There's like more equality needs to be exposed for us. And that's what equality means to me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We still have a long way to go. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. Okay, so I'd like to quote one of my, I guess, sheroes in history, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she once said that women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. So I will start with you, Nicole. Why are women so important to the cannabis industry, and then more specifically to Trulieve?
Well, I mean, I think we have a pretty obvious example of why they're important to the cannabis industry, and that is really exemplified by our CEO, Kim Rivers, who is the only female multi-state operator CEO in our industry. And I think that, you know, just by virtue of the fact that she's the only one tells you why it's important to have women in the industry. I think that the industry presents great opportunity for women because it is a newer industry, it is a disruptor. And so there's lots of opportunities for women to get plugged in to our industry. But I also think on the flip side that there are challenges, right? In terms of safe banking has not passed at a federal level. And so it's really difficult. It's difficult for women to get access to capital for business, period. But I think in our industry, it's taken to a whole nother level because the traditional options for funding are just not available to women in our industry. So while it presents a lot of great opportunity because it is new and there aren't all of these established, you know, structures to knock down to get access, the capital issue is a real one. It's something that, you know, I know is important to our company to work on at a federal level, and Lauren does a great job with that and trying to advance legislation that would help that. But you know, again, it's one of those things that it's a double-edged sword. Our industry is a double-edged sword, I think, for women. But I do think you see a lot of women with opportunities in smaller cannabis companies, in vendors that are suppliers to our industry. And so, you know, there's all sorts of ways to find opportunity here, not just being the CEO of a large cannabis company.
Yeah, and I think to your point, you know, outside of the cannabis industry, in business in general, organizations that have existed for decades, you know, there is still that gap of women in the C-suite or in leadership roles, you know, that are typically held by men. So yeah, that's a barrier. That's less a glass ceiling and more a concrete barrier at times. And especially,
Heidi, not to interrupt you, but you mentioned glass ceiling and you mentioned, you know, in the C-suite, it's not just the C-suite, but the Trulieve board actually is 50-50 women versus men. And I don't think you'll find that in many corporate boards across the country. We are a publicly traded company.
wow, yeah.
It is an important thing to have representation by women on boards. There's initiatives out there in the country. There's one 20% by 2020. I don't think we actually hit that, although we may have, but the fact that we're like striving to get 20%, and, you know, a company like Trulieve has really put their money where their mouth is and said, look, we have a 50% female led board. And I think that's important for all of those decision-making roles to be diverse.
I could not agree with you more. All right, Lauren, what would you like to add as far as the importance of women in the industry and in Trulieve to what?
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole just took my first talking point, but it's fine. We'll make up later.
Yeah, you're like, okay, what was it?
But yeah, I'm a big believer that women have a unique way of thinking and strategizing and advancing business development, both in cannabis and in other emerging industries. I think Nicole mentioned it earlier. We are basically a startup industry. Though the plant has been around for centuries, we as a regulated industry are really in our infancy. And so there's a lot of opportunity at all levels of the organization, not just C-suite, but from retail employees to the cultivation team to, as Nicole mentioned, these ancillary businesses that folks sometimes forget about, but there are so many pieces of the puzzle that interact with a multi-state operator such as Trulieve that aren't the operator themselves. So I think there is education that needs to be done about what all those opportunities are. And we also have a job to help normalize what that women can be in cannabis, both users and employees of. Cannabis still has this stigma of being sort of a male-centric industry, and our CEO and our leadership of women, I have two women leaders, one being Nicole and one being Kim, that I work with directly, that we really have that opportunity to normalize this for anybody who wants to be a consumer of or a part of the industry.
That's great. That's great. You know, and really, more to your point, I think organizations are realizing, are coming around to, and have been maybe for a while, that diverse leadership is what brings, it can bring a wealth of knowledge, and definitely varying perspectives, to help improve, you know, your overall organization, the health of the organization, inside, and then also those outside relationships. So thank you for your input. I appreciate it. Okay, Star, what about you? What would you like to add to the importance of women in the cannabis industry and your views as a executive in HR and talent acquisition?
For me, I think in my department, and it's really important for us to always look at, you know, who we hire, but also their skill set. And what we've noticed, and since I've started, is that the more we hire, we're looking at the more experience is coming from the female part, right? The women's side, right? They have the experience, the knowledge, and also the willingness to learn it. So I think that we get that more on the women's side than we do on the men's side. And speaking, you know, even sitting with some of these hiring events with my recruiters and speaking to them, and, you know, their taboo has always been there as, you know, it's something that is not spoken about. It's mostly on the male side. And now they're coming out and saying, you know, we know more about this than our male counterparts. And we see it on, you know, on sites, we see it at stores. You ask somebody, you know, the same question, and their knowledge outweighs their male counterparts by a lot, right? So that's something that we always look at when we're hiring, because we want to have that diversity in there, right? We want to have more of the women in there and having that knowledge, because it comes from their perspective.
Yeah. And since you brought up hiring, I just would like to follow up real quickly. Just, you know, to everybody on the webinar, what would be a traditional career path, or what are some different opportunities within the industry, you know, within Trulieve, within the industry, that you could, you know, tell our guests about?
There's a lot of different opportunities, and I think we see that in our women's dinners that we do have. Every department has different paths, and we're always hiring for every single level within our company. I mean, you can start off, you know, as a trimmer and be now in HR and have that opportunity to advance, as long as the willingness is there and you're showing progress, and that, you know, willingness to move and ensure that we are still progressing towards that. We are giving them the opportunity to do so. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to have it from the start. They start from, you know, they work their way up, and we've seen it with various directors that we now have. I mean, we have, you know, Alex Briant, who started from the bottom, and now she's the national director of our Southwest hub. So it's inspiring, but also a huge opportunities for women in every level of Trulieve right now.
I think that's so important, to know that whatever level you start at, that there is that path forward if that's what you want in your life and in your career. So the fact that Trulieve it practices that, I think, is a great benefit, and is one of the things that makes you a great employer partner for us. So that's something we truly appreciate, and I know our clients do as well. Okay, Debbie, what would you like to say about the importance of women in the industry, in your organization? What would you like to tell the panel? Or
I would just like to see that women are redefining what good business practices look like by contributing and giving back to the community. For example, there's a company that I'm really into that's out of Newark, New Jersey. It's called Buy Weed from Women, and it's a Black-owned, women-run company that's been around since 2020. They've already been in Forbes because they give back to their community. They've been putting together these boxes that a small part of their profit goes back to food banks. And everyone knows that, like, families are always needing food. It doesn't matter what your income is, there's always someone out there that needs help. But I just wanted also to touch on that Rolling Stone magazine just put out an article that Gen Z women are increasing the sales of cannabis over 151% this year already. So
Wow.
it's like women are making moves and they're coming out, and that is having our companies having to redirect packaging towards more women. And I feel like Trulieve is just on the cusp of it. And like we're breaking ceilings, as everyone is saying, by having these opportunities here with us. So it's amazing.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, we are definitely on the move and making moves. Still, again, we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, but it's cause for optimism for sure. And kind of in that same vein, so, women have to overcome a lot of different things, a lot of stereotypes, and that may become even more of a barrier for women of color. How can women, in your opinion, work across those divides of opinions? In your mind, how can we continue to remove, to break down those stereotypes and to break down those barriers?
I just say, like, you got to put on blinders sometimes. It can get hard. It can get really suffocating. You can feel defeated. But I know for myself, I'm the only woman at this site. I've interviewed women to come in here, and I want to find the ones that like want to work in the grow. I know they're out there. It's just finding them. Like,
Yeah.
They're there. I would just say to anyone that is interested in working in the grow, don't give up. Like, I didn't think it would be possible for me to be in this position. And just like you ladies were talking about, I started here with Harvest as a trimmer and got promoted to the clone and propagation room. And from there, I was promoted to supervisor. And from there, I am now the cultivation site manager. It's a beautiful thing. And I know that my career is just taking off. And I want to just express that to everybody, that you can make it happen.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I think it's a really important question, so I'm gonna ask it of the rest of you as well. So Nicole, going back to you, in your opinion, or in your, we've all gone through different stereotypes and treatment, based on different stereotypes. How can women work through that and break those stereotypes, in your opinion?
I mean, I think that you just heard it and you saw it with Debbie.
Yeah.
Doing it. And when other women see other women doing it and loving it, I mean, her passion, and it's inspiring hearing the way that she talks about what she does. That to me is how you transcend it. I think when I was in a law firm and I was about, to make partner, I was trying to make partner, that's supposedly the brass ring. And I looked around and there were no women to aspire to be like. And so I think having those role models like Debbie and having her speak to that and show people the way is you can't beat that. You can't talk your way through that.
Mm-mm.
Genuine, it's authentic, and to me that's the best way is examples like that.
I agree. And to provide our young girls somebody that they can see, and allows them the ability to be able to see themselves maybe one day in that role. And I thought it was a really big moment. I think big is an understatement, to see Kamala Harris as our vice president, because it then opens up a whole new world for young women and girls in what they can see themselves doing. So yeah, I think you're exactly right. Lauren, would you like to add anything to that, to what Nicole and Debbie said?
Yeah, I think that just one thing that helps work across the divide is really to stand up for one another, with one another, and actually do that in practice and not say that we do it, but not do it in practice. Because I think that we probably all see that all the time with the best of intentions, but really sticking together, that whatever level of any company women are in, that we're all in this together to build one another up, to help each other succeed, and to help advance women's leadership and women's positions inside of any organization.
Agreed. Women for women, right? 100%. I couldn't agree more with you. We don't
just want
need
to say
to be.
one thing.
Oh, go ahead.
To cut you off, but yeah, in other workplaces, I've never had many women in supervisory positions that would be open for any kind of advice. So if there are women out there that are into growing or want any tips on growing, feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to get you in, like, hey, you want to do this? Maybe you should start here. I'm happy to help.
That's so important. Mentoring, and just, yeah, like you said, Lauren, lifting one another up, and not, I think, and what I have experienced at some points in my career are, women feel very competitive towards each other. So that does not create that symbiotic relationship where, you're lifting each other up, no matter, whatever your level is. So I think that was very important, and thank you, Lauren, for that insight. I couldn't agree with you more, truly. Star, did you want to add anything else?
I think for me, my team does a lot of community outreach. A lot of my team are women, and I think sharing their experiences, with some of them starting, in facilities, in grow sites, and also their experiences with HR. I think them sharing their experiences gives, a different perspective of what you would see on paper or what you would see on our website. So I think that it gives a lot of insight to women that, are interested in joining the organization. And because we give them a perspective from where we're at, that they become interested. It's not so much, we just provide them, here's a site or here's a website that you can go to. We give them the actual, this is what we experience in the company, and this is the growth you can experience if you join us.
Gosh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I think that this would be a good point to chat as quickly as we can about unconscious bias, because I think when we're talking about moving up levels in the workforce, in our careers, or, just even getting our foot in the door, that's where that can really be a problem. Nicole, I'll start with you. How is Trulieve fighting, or not fighting, but how are they reducing that opportunity for unconscious bias in the workplace, in your organization?
Sure, thank you. So first of all, we will be doing some training around it for the entire organization, which I think is important. There's some excellent training out there that really makes you think twice about it. And so I think having the commitment to train around that issue is one of the best things that you can do. And then coming back to what we just talked about with Debbie and her story, that's how you get over unconscious bias as well, is by seeing examples that fly in the face of what you normally would think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lauren, did you have anything that you would like to add around unconscious bias and the organization, and things that you're experiencing or seeing in Trulieve?
Yeah, Nicole, did you have a thought that you wanted to finish?
Well, just that, going back to what Star said about being intentional in our hiring and putting people in positions where, someone like Debbie has someone to look up to, people below have someone to look up to now who can look up to her. And so I think it is that intentionality, both with training and through action, day to day.
Great. Yeah, I apologize. I think you froze up on me, so I didn't mean to interrupt your thought. I apologize.
No worries.
And it's true, our organizations, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that when you increase the diversity in your workforce, you're going to decrease that unconscious bias. And you're also going to increase, some of those, important business indices that, every organization is looking to achieve. So there's so many benefits to having a diverse workforce, which includes having plenty of women in various leadership roles and roles within the organization.
I think the
Star,
only thing
did
that
you
I would
have
add,
anything you'd like to add?
No, I think they covered it. I think training and, firsthand experience is what is going to drive our diverse workforce. And like I said, most of my recruiting staff is female. So from that perspective and their interviews, they know the knowledge that needs to be there, but also they can share their growth and where they are and how they accomplish where they are, to be able to, say, this is where we started, this is where we're at, and this is what opportunities we have for you. And, most of them are very excited to join the organization, but I think it's going to take a lot more training for the teams as we, get larger and more diverse, where it's just going to take a lot of training.
Yeah, I agree. And, really, unconscious bias, as far as I know, really hasn't been talked about. It's more of a recent history that we've started talking about that and looking intrinsically at our own, biases. So as new as cannabis is as an industry, I think unconscious bias is a fairly new concept as well. I want to take go
I
ahead.
wanted to just say, in the chat, somebody had said that we lost audio. Can somebody that's a participant let us know if they can hear us okay? Okay, thanks, guys.
Oh gosh, thanks. Well, I was just going to ask too, Sandy, are there any questions in the chat right now for our panelists?
Muted here. Sorry, I lost mine. So yeah, right now the questions are more just saying that they're really impressed by the panelists. There are some people asking questions of how do they get more information. So I know we have some more information at the end of the presentation, where we have some links to at least learn about both organizations and what opportunities for jobs potentially there. And then there was also a question about if someone, if they can connect with the host and panelist on LinkedIn. So we can then, provide information on that as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Well, feel free, everyone, to if you have any questions specifically for our panel or for me, please feel free to put those in the chat. I would like to start with our last question, and it doesn't mean I won't have a follow-up for you. But the last question that I'd like to pose to the panel is really related to your drive and ambition. You're all very successful. I'm sure you've all had very different paths to your to where you're at in your career. There's no question, right, that we still have gender parity. Women are still fighting for rights over their own bodies, over their own personal choices. Again, the glass ceiling, it's still there. We have some cracks, but it's still there. But all that being said, as you were growing up, and I'm going to start with you, Nicole, as you were growing up and as you were finding your own way, if you could pare it all down to one thing, it's a big question. What has been the one thing for you that drove your success more than anything else?
It's hard to say one thing.
You can say two. It's fine.
Okay. I'll say one quick and then I'll say one that's longer. I mean, I think that, I've worked since I was 14 years old. So I've been very motivated since a young age. Didn't come from a family that had a lot of wealth. I, worked 40 hours a week through college. And so I've always worked. And I think that mentality, I brought it to my professional life. And at my first real kind of big professional job at the law firm, I think the one thing I would say is the willingness to do things that nobody else wants to do. At one point in time at my old firm, I called myself the professional pooper scooper because I oversaw ethics and compliance for all the lawyers there. And I also oversaw malpractice claims. It was a volunteer job in addition to my regular practice, which was in litigation. but I also served in this administrative unpaid role at a law firm. And it was doing that was volunteer. Sometimes it really sucked. Doing that is what garnered the attention of management. They understood that I could be discreet, that I could be trusted with very sensitive, complex matters. And it was that led me to, I believe, the opportunity to manage that office, which then just, all of these things lead to other doors that open, or at least kick the door open a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would say my long answer is, doing those things that a lot of people are unwilling to do. And that's my long answer. My short answer is clearly mentoring. I think mentoring, you can't understate how important it is to find someone who genuinely cares about your career and wants to see you succeed. I think that over the course of my professional life, I've tried to be what I call a wing woman.
Yeah.
Other women, it's hard for you to talk in glowing terms about yourself. Finding somebody else who can do that for you with people that it matters, who can tell your supervisor that you're terrific and point out those things that might just get overlooked, those little things that you did that set you apart from other people. Finding that wing woman or wing man, whatever the case may be, is really important as well.
I agree. And that's going to segue very well into my follow-up question. So who for you was somebody that you look to as a role model, or maybe even a leadership mentor through your career?
I was very lucky at my old law firm. I actually had a couple of very senior partners. They happened to be men who took an interest in making sure that I had the type of work that I needed to advance professionally. And they really just took me under their wing and gave me those opportunities. And sometimes I was actually sometimes really mad at them. There were a couple door slamming incidents that I had where, you need someone who will have those tough conversations with you.
Sure.
That your work isn't where it needs to be. Or in this particular instance, I had one of my mentors tell me that I was working too much and that I needed to take a breather because I was going to burn myself out. I actually did a 1-year clerkship with the Arizona Supreme Court before I went to a law firm. So when I came in, I felt like I was a year behind all of my peers, even though what I had done was a phenomenal experience.
Right.
These other people have this year of experience. And so I went kind of hog wild and tried to do everything and catch that year up. And, it was a mentor who said to me, you're pissing other people off because you're trying to gobble up all the work.
Right. You're doing all the work.
You're going to burn yourself out. And that was the door slamming conversation where I was like, you're wrong. But you need someone who can have those honest conversations with you as you advance in your career.
It's so important. And it's so important to be, yes, we do have those door slamming moments where we're like, nope, I'm not listening to you. But to be open to that advice and that feedback is so important, and it will go so much further in your career. That's stuff that you'll take with you. Like right now, you're referring back to it, and it's something that you took your entire career with you. So it was very effective feedback, door slam or not. Okay, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So Lauren, for you, what has been the one thing that drove your success more than anything else?
Yeah, I mean, like Nicole, there's so many pieces of the puzzle, but one of mine is, I think, the confidence the self-confidence that I've had. I think that we look a lot towards external sources for confidence, and a lot of us then fail in that arena because it's really hard to fulfill that self-confidence when you're seeking it externally. And I was very lucky growing up, having 2 parents who were at home who instilled that really confidence and message of hard work. And those are 2 things that I feel drive me today. I'm going to preempt your question by saying in the mentorship realm, because that's what I'm known to do, Heidi, is answer a question before it's asked.
Yeah, she's on me.
To not think that you have to engage in like, oh, I need to find the right perfect person and ask them if they'll be my mentor. I think that a lot of us, I had this mindset at one point too, thinking I need to find the right person and ask her or him. And really mentorship can be so many things and from so many different places. I see Nicole as a mentor of mine. I don't think I ever asked her, but well, there you go. One more job to your list.
Whether she wants to be or not,
That's right. She's stuck. So, and another one is somebody completely outside of this industry, but my best friend in the entire world who works in law enforcement in the tech space, but listening and watching her lead her teams helps me become a better leader, because that is something that, you know, the interaction with other people, both like alongside you, the people that you supervise and the people that you have to manage up, there are 3 components there. And so just being able to watch other people in that space who have those abilities to really manage genuinely and authentically, that has been really important. So I encourage everybody to look to people who are in your personal and professional life and see who can, without even formally being titled a mentor, can serve and you can learn from. I think it's really impactful.
That's great advice. And both you and Nicole, you know, said hard work drove your success, and you know, there is no substitute for hard work. End of story, period. You have to work for what you want to achieve. We just want to be able to achieve it fairly, right? And equitably. So thank you so much. Okay, Star. So tell us a little bit about what drove your success more than anything else throughout your career.
So what drove my success from a very young age for me was knowing that I had to be focused, and the knowledge that I had to gain, you know, in education was, you know, always instilled in me. I had an aunt who was on the school board when I was in school. So everyone knew who she was. So everyone knew that, you know, you had to live up to that standard, right? So she always instilled that we had to be, you know, educated. We had to have that knowledge so we can break out of that box that we were always put in. So it was, you know, hard work, education, but also, you know, getting, you know, I started teaching. I was a special ed teacher for 8 years, and I loved my job, but I felt that there was no opportunity for growth there. Leaving there, I went to Amazon, which was a big contrast to where I was, right? And working in Amazon and starting in HR, and then moving into a role where I was traveling probably 3 weeks out of a month, opening new distribution centers all around the country, and training HR and talent acquisition staff. I was the only female that was doing that at that time.
Wow.
So it was challenging, definitely challenging, but I think, like Nicole said, there was a lot of opportunity for mentorship there, and I did get a lot of good mentors when I was in Amazon, but they were all female, where it was a male dominated industry when I first started there. And I spent, you know, almost 9 years there, and I learned a lot, but I also learned that in that industry, it's still very male dominant, and it doesn't seem like it's changing. So I wanted that growth as a woman in another industry. So I think cannabis is that industry for me.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Debbie, what would you add? What would you tell us about the one thing that drove your success and got you to where you are right now?
Well, I definitely agree with Ms. Stanton. I started working when I was 14 years old, and I don't think I've taken a break since. So it's just like every summer I was working and just staying devoted to that work ethic. But you need to find something you love, and you have to be into it. It has to be something that gets you up in the morning. It honestly has to be something you think about when you're going to sleep. That's how I was able, I think, to stay 15 years at my hospitality management job in Washington, D.C. I love those people. Those people are still my second family. I still talk to them on the phone, and it was a symbiotic relationship. And coming right into cannabis, I would say the same thing. I love cannabis, and like, yeah, it's work, but I love what I do. And I eat it, I sleep it, I drink it. And if you don't, like, let's say you don't want to be a gardener, there's other fields in cannabis, you know, there's other things you can do. So, you know, just working in the fields, we can always find an opportunity in one department, you know, so the world is your oyster, ladies.
I agree. And yeah, I agree 1000% in that, we spend so much time at work, right? Sometimes more time there than with our own families. It is so important to be passionate about what you do. And don't settle for something that you're not passionate about and that you can't envision yourself in and doing, every day, all day, every day, right? So that's a really great point. And what about for you? Did you have somebody, a role model or a mentor throughout your career that you look to for advice?
No, I think about a teacher I had in the 7th grade who was like a health teacher. I think she taught us about menstruation and like puberty. And she just said, girls, life is going to get you down, but just remember, you got 2 feet to keep you going. And like, for some reason, her words just keep always in my head. And currently I have her in the back of my head, but I also have some great supervisors ahead of me. My project manager, Lawson, she's amazing. Alex Briant, our director, is amazing. It's great to have these women that I can reach out to and have decent conversations and have some real feedback that is not what I'm used to getting from a male counterpart.
Yeah. Well, gosh, that's so great. Yeah. Teachers, I can look back on a few in my childhood, and I definitely received some great advice, life advice from them, and carry it with me to today. So that was the last question that I have for you. Sandy, are there any questions for our panelists in the chat?
There are. So one was, do you have suggestions to progress and get to a leadership position?
So that might be a good question for Star, or well, for all of you it is, but maybe since you're in HR, Star, do you want to field that?
To be in a leadership position, you just have to show interest, right? Apply for the position. Even if you feel that you're not qualified, still apply for the position and send us an email, let us know why you feel that you would be a good fit for this position. A lot of the times we're not looking for, the education part of it. There's knowledge that outweighs that in so many ways, right? So always show interest and emails and just stay on top of it. And that way, if it's something that we feel that, we're gonna interview you for and speak highly to a hiring manager for, then we can do that in our perspective because we have already spoken to you or you've sent communication out to our team.
Great, thank you.
And I'd like to add one thing, Heidi, to that. Sorry, I totally agree with you. And
You're good.
one other thing that I'm guilty of myself is if you see a job and it looks like it might not be perfect, you might not meet everything they're asking for, put yourself out there, apply for it, follow up with the recruiters, because you never know what other types of applicants. And I think sometimes it gets scary. I have that LinkedIn premium thing where it shows you how many people have applied and then it judges you and tells you how successful you're going to be. And sometimes I think that's a helpful tool, but just there's an opportunity you see, put it out there, because you never know what the other applicants are, who they are, what the recruiters like Star are seeing. So have that confidence in yourself to give it a try. We've all been turned down before. So
Well,
more than once.
There's actually, like, if you Google it, there's actually research out there about jobs. And when men look at a job description and they fit like 30% of it, they apply. Women are like, no, I only hit 90% of it. I don't have this thing here. I'm not going to apply. And so the message is apply, apply, apply. And tell someone, like, if you're interested, say something. You need to let the people above you know, I'm interested in advancing, even if it's outside this department, and let them know your intentions.
Don't give up. I went on like over 100 bud tender applications before I got hired for Harvest to Trim. Like, no one would hire me in this city. It's crazy. Like, and they were all male dominated companies. Like, but I didn't give up. And I came to my 80th interview at Harvest and I got hired.
Never give up, that's for sure. Gosh. And I would just advise anybody on this webinar that LinkedIn, if you're not already on LinkedIn, that it's a great resource for jobs, for job seekers, you know, just for there's so many different you know, motivational people and businesses that you can follow, and you can follow Trulieve, of course, and Harvest. So I would encourage you to, if you're not on LinkedIn, to get that up and running for yourselves.
Yeah, and then there was a question on mentors, when I think some of the people answered it directly. I think Lauren did on the actual answers. There's questions about what, you know, they're hiring for, what level of entry. So I know we have that on our slide. So
Okay, great.
Want to make sure we get to that as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, there, what you're seeing on your screen is you have both a link to Trulieve's job board, and then there's also a link and QR code to our career services. So if you don't have a resume, or your resume needs brushed up, or you know, you need some career guidance, we're happy to help you with that. So please reach out to us. If you are preparing, you know, you get an interview with Trulieve, we're happy to, we would love for you to come and visit us so we can prepare you with a professional business attire, and, you know, with some mock interview prior skills prior to your interview. So please, you have access to Trulieve and to us. So please use those resources. I would encourage you to do that.
Yep.
I think we're out of time, Sandy.
We are, Heidi. So.
All right. Gosh. Well, from me and from everyone, on behalf of Dress for Success, we want to thank Trulieve. We want to thank our guests for joining us. But Trulieve and all of you, thank you so much for being our panelists today, and for joining us on this special day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks for
Have a
joining
good
us.
day. Yeah.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.